Girls, how do you know when a guy is genuinely good and not just trying to get some? When they give you exactly what you told them you wanted. When I met my now husband, I wanted to date and said we should just hang out. It was cool with that, and we just hung out. Then he got really intoxicated at a party and told me he really liked me a lot, and I got all embarrassed and kind of shunned him for the night. In the morning, after I slept it off in the yard and then in his car, he told me he gets it. I'm not interested, and he would leave me alone if that's what I wanted, and he did. After a few days, I realized I was being dumb because he was cool and respectful of me and my wishes. I called him up. We took it slow, at first, but I eventually was the one to take it to the next level because he left that up to me to decide. So yeah, he gave me what I said I wanted, then I didn't want that anymore. I wanted him. Story 2. They do nice things for zero reason and refuse to accept any sort of compensation after a favor. My current boyfriend has been told by repeated sources amongst our friends group that he will become a saint when he passes away. Even before we were together, he has gone out of his way to make me feel better or help me out. He's driven me places, including a full hour-long trip to another city. He's come over with pizza, and I posted it on social media. I felt like crap, and has repeatedly done little things. Hugs when anyone feels down, genuinely asking how he can help, remembering favorite flavors of soda, and bringing them to meetups. That sort of thing. I've also never ever seen him angry. Not fully. Disgruntled, yes. Annoyed, yes. But never truly angry. He's learned how to control and release his anger in a way that isn't painful to himself or others. I'm so gosh darn lucky. Story 3. When he respects your personal space. So many guys try to touch you thinking it's okay, but my current boyfriend of almost 2 years, during the period right before we started dating but knew we liked each other, was still very careful not to do anything he wasn't sure I was comfortable with, even though he knew I liked him very much. During that time, he accidentally grazed my melons and was completely horrified that he had done that and wouldn't stop apologizing, even though I was laughing about it. And that's when I knew he was the one. Lol. Story 4. I'm a guy, but I'd like to pitch in what I can. To keep it short and sweet, kindness in love is being understanding and having patience. However, it's really difficult to wrap up in a simple sentence because this also really depends on you as a person. Who you are and how you feel about yourself plays a highly underrated role in this kind of equation. If you feel that you're comfortable with yourself, then you will find that your common sense will be all you need to help you in this situation. Otherwise, if you have difficulties with distinguishing this kind of thing, then I would wholeheartedly advise you to tread as carefully as you can. Don't be afraid to take it easy and listen to your doubts. There's some F-boys out there that will smell you from a mile away if you so much as let them get a whiff of your internal hesitation. In the end, just think about it in a humane sense. Don't put yourself anywhere that makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to backpedal when you're having your doubts. Know your worth, and if a guy doesn't respect that, then back the heck away. For the guys that might be reading this, it goes both ways. Story 5. They treat you with respect from the very beginning. I had a friend in a group of friends who didn't pay much attention to me. I wasn't very polite either. As this group of friends was all male and I was the only woman, I was constantly interrupted when talking and my opinions never mattered. So, just the usual. This is why you don't make friends with men, ladies. It all changed when I dyed my hair blonde and lost weight. Suddenly I could get a sense in a conversation. Doors weren't slammed in my face. I was invited to functions rather than just tagging along. I was a person. Date someone who sees you as equal from the moment he meets you. Story 6. I learned this from my mom. There are a lot of signs a guy is genuine, like paying attention, offering to help out without bringing it up again, etc. But a pretty foolproof thing is to look at how the guy treats the other women in his life. The problem is, if he's romantically interested in you, he's going to treat you differently. So look at how he treats his mom, his sister, his ex, especially his mom. A man that is healthily affectionate and respectful towards his mom, not too much, should know enough to treat you well a couple of years down the road when he gets tired of you. Also, personally, I always look for guys that can respect my need to spend a lot of time alone. Story 7. I never really know, to be honest. Human relationships and interactions are so complex, often too blurry for me to make a proper impression. And I'm not intelligent enough to always discern intentions. I generally believe in the goodness of people. I just maintain my strong boundaries and don't allow anyone, including myself, to cross them. That's how I control my relationships. Besides, time tells everything. A slow and steady approach reveals who a person truly is, and at least that way I wouldn't be putting myself at risk. Story 8. At first, I think you just have to see whether they keep hanging out with you repeatedly in public even though you haven't slept with them yet. If they back off after intimacy, that's bad. If they keep doing nice stuff, that's good. Truthfully, I had no idea whether my now boyfriend legitimately liked me until about 2 months in, when he came over to clean the apartment I was moving out of and carried heavy stuff. Then he sent flowers to my new place, which was inconveniently far away from where we met, and he still lived. He was very quiet and nonchalant for quite a while, but he just kept showing up. He was also like the only human being my dog liked right away. This surprised me because my dog is small and insecure and my boyfriend is large, but they just vibed. Story 9. But he takes no for an answer. No means no isn't just an intimacy thing. Some guys will needle and whine you to go to a party or a movie with them when you've already said you're not free, or try to make you feel bad for having other plans. That's a big red flag when you say, no, they hear convince me. If you cancel a plan with someone because of unforeseen consequences and they're bummed but say, I understand, that's a genuinely good guy. If they say, but you promised, I can't believe you're doing this to me, they feel entitled to you. Story 10. Not very easy to know in the beginning. In my opinion, it takes time to really know if someone is nice. I knew my now husband was a nice guy when I told him straight off the bat that I wasn't ready for any kind of intimate relations, and that must have helped him too, because he seemed relieved. When things seemed to be getting a little too heavy, we would stop each other and just try and calm things down a bit. I have to admit, the first time he stopped me, I realized I meant more to him than intimacy. It took us 6 whole years of dating before we had actual intimacy. Besides that, though, he listened. Truly listened to everything I said. He remembered dates, appointments, even sometimes remembered things I completely forgot myself. He would also give me tiny gifts just because they reminded him of me, and often just do small things that just made him so special. He still does these things, 11 plus years later. Story 11. In my case, my now husband and I were friends for a few years before getting together. He looked out for me when family didn't, even though I was dating other guys. He helped me get food. He paid for my dress for prom because he wanted to make sure I had some good memories. He helped me move out and find a place to live. He did all this with no expectations from me. All he asked of me was my company. We'd have lunch together or go to the park and vent about our lives, and that was enough for him. He genuinely just wanted to be a good person to me. He was in love with me, and he wanted to be able to try to be a good guy for me, but knowing that if I didn't feel the same way, that wasn't on me. So when we ended up together, it was that much better. Story 12. Good isn't the same as not trying to have intimacy with you, in my opinion. For a genuinely good guy, I'd say watch how he treats his family, your family, and people he might perceive as having low value, like customer service staff, kids, or pets. The only surefire way I've found is if I aggressively pursue him. I asked my current boyfriend on a date, made the first move, etc. I wouldn't be shocked if other guys did only want to have intimacy with you. Also, you could pretend to be waiting until marriage, but that's deceptive and might actually make some guys pursue you harder. Story 13. Easy. Say no when they try to have intimacy. They're like, okay, cool, let's do something else then. And I continue to talk to you without pressuring you in every freaking situation, and usually they're interested in more. If they flip out, guilt trip, or straight up stop talking to you, then you know they were just using you to get off. I married someone like the latter. He just wanted someone he thought he couldn't say no, even when I said no. Needless to say, that didn't last. I'm much, much smarter now than I was then. Story 14. I'm quite selective when it comes to intimacy. I'm attracted to maybe one boy out of 200, and I know him when I see him. The average boy will talk to me, joke around, discuss issues, and offer a novel viewpoint. The ones who are only interested in getting some, however, will act very interested, want to hang out even if they don't agree with or find value in my perspectives. They generally don't talk about anything interesting despite never shutting up and always wanting to talk more. I know that if I'm not getting anything out of the conversation, they aren't either. There's no intimacy in the discourse, just interaction with a pretty girl. If we're having a good conversation and they do want some, they either keep it to themselves and we continue to enjoy a working relationship, or they stop talking to me. Plain and simple. Story 15. Why is this binary? You can be a good guy and still want to have intimacy with someone. This kind of thinking has left us in this weird bind in which both men and women have to spend a lot of time and effort pretending they don't want to do it. I recently slept with someone I've known for a while, and afterwards she asked why I hadn't made a move a few weeks earlier when we were alone at my place. I told her I didn't want to seem like a creep. I asked her why she hadn't made a move, and she said she didn't want to seem like a witch. So there we were, 2 idiots who wanted to do it but didn't because of this ridiculous idea that you can either desire intimacy or be a good guy or girl. Story 16. I found a really good checklist to be. Is he trying to elicit a specific behavior or response from me, or is he being sincere? Is he focused on how the situation affects him, or how it affects me or the people around him? Example, I've had both good guys and nice guys tell me they had feelings for me. The nice guy said, I just don't understand why you won't go out with me. Like, what else could I do? You're the perfect girl for me. You don't know how hard it is to see the perfect person for you and not be able to have them. The good guy said, since we're friends, I think I owe it to you to be totally honest and tell you that I've started developing feelings for you. You don't have to reciprocate or say anything right now. I just want it to be upfront so things don't get weird later. Story 17. I met my boyfriend online. When he first introduced me to his bestie told me he was literally Googling my name to check who I was who I said I was and making sure I was good enough for him. I figured if someone cared enough to do that for their friend, it's because they know their friend is a decent person. Plus, literally everyone in our friendship group online would say we were both the 2 nicest people in the community. Basically, if a guy is consistently mentioned as a really sweet guy by all kinds of people, it's probably well-deserved. Story 18. I'm a guy, and I've seen guys play the part of the nice guy really well just to get some. Probably the best thing you can do as a woman, in order to avoid feeling deceived into intimate relations with a guy who isn't interested in being in a relationship, is to not get physical right away. Just take it slow. Go on a few dates. If you're feeling a vibe, kissing is okay. If you sense the guy is pushing you beyond where you're comfortable going, let him know. If he persists, then he's probably more interested in intimacy than your personality. If you wait at least a couple of weeks before serious physical contact, you'll put on many, if not most, of the guys only looking for intimacy. It'll also give you an opportunity to get to know him and evaluate whether you have chemistry. Story 19. I once met a girl at an outlet mall, and we got to talking for a while and eventually got late and dark. I'm kind of a shy guy, so I hesitated a bit, but I asked if she needed a ride to her car. It was dark in a big parking lot, so even though I was interested in her, I also felt obligated to make sure she was safe. She actually said no because she wasn't that far, and I just followed up with if it was okay for me to at least walk her to her car, and she said yes. We got to her car, and I asked for her number, and she shyly smiled and was like, and I got the hint right away and said, I get it, it's cool. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great night. Smiled and turned to walk away. I get a few steps and I hear her open her door, but then goes, wait. I stop and turn and joke, nope, too late. She laughs and I walk over and we exchange numbers. We dated for 6 months, and sometime during that, well, she told me that how chill I was about being rejected made her instantly like me. Not in a pity way, she just realized I wasn't going to treat her like crap if she turned me down. Story 20. That can be a tough one because even if the guy is genuinely good and values a relationship over intimacy, sometimes paranoia can get in the way and make you think they're just a really good actor. One guy I know has been genuine and sweet and insists that he doesn't expect anything, that he just likes to spend time together, and it's probably true. But there's always some part of me that will doubt it. That's my problem, not his. Anywho, I think my short answer is, it's hard to tell. You just gotta hope they mean it. Story 21. It's hard to tell, but generally, the biggest one is effort. Someone who just wants to use you probably won't really try that hard, because this is something you can get from anyone. He'll probably invite you over to watch Netflix or something, and he won't see or interact with you unless it's completely convenient. Meanwhile, a guy who actually likes you will try. What this looks like does depend on his budget, but no matter what, he'll actually attempt to find out what you like to eat or drink or do, and then make an honest effort to show you a good time and impress you. And he will take the initiative a lot of the time. He will want to see and talk to you, and he will try to make these things happen. You won't have to start every conversation. You won't go days and days without hearing from him. It won't be on you to plan every hangout. Again, effort. A guy who likes you will be interested in who you are as a person. He'll listen when you tell him about yourself, and he'll remember what you say. You won't shy away from personal topics that aren't related to intimacy. Someone who strictly wants to sleep with you will generally stick to small talk and talk. The guy who likes you will be patient when it comes to intimacy. If he's interested in a relationship, he'd probably prefer the intimacy element to develop at a pace everyone is comfortable with, so you have a solid foundation. A guy who just wants to sleep won't want to waste his time. He'll push the talk even when it's not clearly reciprocated. There will probably be some pressure if you don't immediately respond to his advances. Story 22. They still do nice things for you even when you're not interested in intimacy. When my depression was at its worst, I had 2 guy friends come out of the woodwork. Lots of, oh, let me do anything to help, I'm here for you. And when I did try to talk to them or just engage in polite conversation, the conversation turned into, you should move on by sleeping with me. So gross. Conversely, I slept with a guy on the first date and he told me he didn't want anything serious or like a commitment. Sure, I can respect that. But he continued to fool around and I didn't expect anything of it. But he'd bring me coffee at work, comfort me on my bad days, and would take the time to hang out with my friends just because I wanted to. He was a really nice guy and treated me better than my own ex-fiancé. He treated me with respect and kindness. It helped me realize that I deserve the minimum. Story 23. This might be an odd rule of thumb, but looking back on my relationship history, I only ever thought about introducing my parents to the actual good ones. Most of the people that turned out to be bad, I never wanted my parents to meet, even if I didn't know they were bad boys at the time. So maybe somewhere deep down, a woman's intuition really does know who's a keeper and who's not. Oddly enough, my significant other, who I've been dating now for 6 years, ended up meeting my parents on our very first day because they had to run home for something and didn't think twice about asking him to come in and meet them. They were shocked, as I never brought anyone home, but I must have known somewhere deep down that he would be around for a while. Story 24. I think all of my relationships started out as a friends with benefits ordeal, and then gradually turned into a real relationship, including my husband, but I was never into going on actual dates with guys. That always seemed uncomfortable and awkward to me. I just got intoxicated and fooled around with guys I thought were hot and then kept hanging out with them after. Lol. I think they're the same as women. It's hard to have intimacy and spend a lot of time with someone without developing feelings. Usually after a few months, one or both would hook up with someone else and it would turn into the, whoa, I really don't want you to do that again conversation, and voila, a relationship was born. Story 25. This is funny. It reminds me of Ali Wong's new stand-up routine where she says girls typically make a guy wait to have intimacy if they're genuinely interested in him. If not, they just want to use the guy for intimacy. I'd say the same. If you're really interested in the guy for a relationship, you make him wait a month or so. If you go out with him enough and watch him for his actions, you can tell if the guy's just going through the motions just to have intimacy with you, or if he's emotionally invested in you. I'd say typically a month is long enough to gauge whether you enjoy spending time with each other, and guys who are just trying to get some will probably either be sleeping with other girls or moving along by then. Also, it's no big deal if he sleeps with you. Just don't suddenly start acting any different after intimacy. Just think of it this way. Wouldn't you rather have found out early if some guy was just using you for intimacy? You get to cut the guy out early before you really get invested in him. Be smart, but don't be too afraid of getting hurt either. Learning to keep up hope and optimism while dealing with emotional disappointment is basically the point of dating. Well, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 26. If he treats me like a normal human being and not a locked chest in a video game and or a math problem. That being said, sometimes you don't know until you sleep with them and they turn into complete schmucks. I had a close friend, completely ghosted me once we had intimacy. It was really bizarre and kind of crazy. A good tip to discern the latter. If they have a certain reputation or they treat you differently than others, it's a yellow flag and you should look a bit closer. Story 27. There are lots of genuinely good people who may just want to have intimacy. They aren't mutually exclusive. As a woman, and I believe myself to be genuinely good, I've gone to bars with the sole intention of having intimacy. This logic doesn't change just by switching genders. It's when people start using manipulation to reach their goals that things get shady. Story 28. Your question is vague, and if you want generic advice, just keep on scrolling through the numerous comments and what makes a good guy. A good guy is a subjective measure, so it's what works for you. That's why women struggle to leave cruel relationships because somewhere in them they find a good guy. Don't overanalyze this because it has to work for you. You should feel comfortable with a guy, and most importantly, you should have fun and it should be easy. If it's a struggle, then walk. What's stopping you? Why are you worried about walking? If you're a good judge of character, you will get more good guys than bad, but that's because you judge character better and select more compatible matches. Not because there are more or less good or bad guys out there. Reality is, all guys will want to get some. If you didn't, then we would be gay and want to have intimacy with another dude. Your actual question is, how do I keep a guy? For that, you need to ask yourself, what do I actually bring to the table? Too many girls are just pretty and nothing more. Guys get bored of them and leave them, or cheat. And the answer to that is lead a fulfilling life. Have interests, be curious, confident, and genuine. If you're an interesting woman who is able to look after herself, you will be more appealing to guys. They will want to stick around. One final thing I would say, beware of the jealous guys that would prevent you from doing this. You need a person who will support you maturing as a human being, but at the same time be comfortable telling you that he doesn't like you seeing your ex, for example. For that, you need a guy who is confident and active and fulfilled himself. Story 29. My husband was the first guy I ever went on a real date with. On said date, it started raining while we were taking a walk outside, and he took off his jacket just to hold it over me. Before that, I thought real dates didn't actually happen anymore. He's always been the kindest and gentlest man I've ever had in my life. Never judges me or puts me down in any way. Even when guys are trying to act like they care, to have intimacy with you, they're terrible at it and end up saying or doing something degrading. Story 30. They take no for an answer. I don't mean outright rejection. I mean if we're on a date and for whatever reason I don't want to get into intimate times, tired, sick, wanting to go slow, etc., they react with empathy and act like we're a team. So if I say I have an early morning and need a good night's sleep, they happily drop me off at home knowing I literally have an early morning and they text to wish me luck or whatever. Or if I'm sick and just not feeling sexy, they respond by asking what makes me feel better when I'm sick and then follow through. Soup, movies, foot rubs. And if I simply want to take it slow, they come up with activities to spend time together, sans physical things. Basically respecting and acknowledging feelings is sexy. Story 31. One of the best tells for me when I met my boyfriend is that he took things aggravatingly slow for me. I had to make all the first moves, sitting closer and closer to him until he had no choice but to put his arm around me, first kiss, etc. I was actually afraid that he wasn't interested for a while, but he told me later that he was just so nervous around me and he usually wasn't around girls. A little bit farther into the relationship, and I was still suspicious, a result of lots of trust issues. It was the little things, like a lot of people have said, that made it evident. He wouldn't just say nice things or compliments, but he would actually do nice things, and usually guys who are faking being nice won't actually put in the effort to do things. They'll just schmooze with words. He would write little notes and stick them around my room, bring me a smoothie before class, drive me to class if I needed a ride, etc. Basically, actions speak much louder than words. Story 32. It's kind of the ultimate purpose of dating. Even Tim Tebow is looking to score eventually. I just plans for it to be on his wedding night. The longer he's willing to wait, the more likely it is he's genuinely good, for two reasons. First, if he wants a cheap score, he's more likely to go for the low-hanging fruit than invest an excessive amount of effort. Although a dirtbag might like the challenge, so it's not a guarantee. Second, and more important, the longer you know someone, the higher the odds they break character if they're fake. At some point, they slip up and they're busted. Story 33. I know this has been said a couple times, in a couple different ways, but for me, the biggest thing is respecting boundaries and not making you feel guilty for saying no. My boyfriend and I started purely fooling around, met online and had talked about everything we were looking forward to when we finally met. When I got to his place, I made sure to ask if he could kiss me, and continued to check in throughout the date. He instantly respected any boundaries I had, and there was no argument, no pushback, and no guilt. Another thing, he made an effort to make sure I felt safe. Before we went to his apartment, he was the one who suggested we meet in public first. This was all such a radical change from any other fooling around I had had before. Story 34. Seems interested in your ideas, calls often, is generous, polite, and seems like someone you could count on. Women know that someday they'll probably have a family. Does this guy have what it takes to take up the slack? Not that every date is a marriage test, but we're searching for a certain dedication and character because in order to be serious about a man, you have to know that they can carry on if you're occupied with childbirth or want to be a stay-at-home mom for a time. Women have more to consider. There's us, and then there's future us. Story 35. And they respect you. I actually rejected my current SO first before we got together. The reason being that even though I really liked him, we lived in the same house on campus, which takes things from 0 to 100 really fast, and I wanted to take things slow. He completely respected my choice, and though understandably bummed, didn't treat me any different than before. We hung out slightly less, but we were still great friends. After a couple of weeks, I decided that I want to go all in with someone who'd 100% respect my boundaries, even if they didn't like those boundaries. Still doing great a couple of years later. Story 36. Based on anecdotal evidence, if you make your Tinder profile come off as really sweet and overly nice, while not appearing overly attractive, you'll likely end up pretty much only making friends. Guys might decide they'd rather have a video game buddy, and attracting depressed guys who just want someone to talk to. So my attempts at online dating might be some of the only ones a straight girl has made without any guys trying to have intimacy with her. Story 37. If he is interesting enough, I don't care if he wants to have intimacy with me. Jokes aside, I think if you sleep with a guy after a couple of hours or days and are still mad if he leaves you afterward, then you're kinda dumb. And I'd be hard-pressed to see the guy in question as being at fault. I don't think being a good person is necessarily tied to someone's romantic or physical interest in you, but generally speaking, you should share your hobbies with that guy and try some of his, no matter how boring or strange they seem at first. If you do that and still believe he's awesome, chances are he is genuinely good for you. If there's a difference between love at first sight and falling in love, you should always try to aim for the latter. It's stronger, safer, and more rewarding. And if he just wanted to sleep with you, at least he earned it by then, right? Story 38. You can often tell very quickly just from their demeanor. If they're always too close for comfort, making suggestive jokes, or finding excuses to be alone with you, they usually want intimacy. The biggest giveaway is finding an excuse to be in a room alone with you. It's not a natural thing to do, so once a guy does it more than once, you can usually tell it's because he just wants to get some. If a guy isn't interested in sleeping with you instantly, they'll treat you with slightly more hesitation or make it clear through their words and demeanor that they're genuinely interested in you as a person. Also, if you frequently catch a guy's eyes lingering on you, he is usually not as interested in your personality. Story 39. Obligatory, not a girl. I'm a guy, but I'm hoping I may be able to provide a useful example. When I met the love of my life, I didn't think I was good enough for her, so I decided to become her best friend instead. I loved talking to her, hanging out with her, and I would follow her into any adventure, even things I never thought I would do, because with her, I felt safe and brave. One day, she had a very unfortunate thing happen to her that I won't discuss the details of. I told her that I would be here for her, and I checked in on her several times a day. Some people might think that sounds creepy, and maybe it is, but it was important to me that she knew she wasn't alone and someone cared about her happiness. She fell in love with me that day, and now we've been together for years. Long story short, no matter male or female, to me, a genuine relationship comes from someone who makes you a better you. I wouldn't be the man I am today without her. She cares so much about me. She puts in time and effort to help me find happiness, and there's nothing more real to me. Story 40. So I started reading this and found it really interesting. I initially had a response about the original question, being a guy myself, but then started reading the debate about whether or not men care to be friends with women that are not single. I consider myself a genuinely good guy who not only does care about people, but can show it fairly well by doing exactly what many women here say they want. The little things. Despite that, I've not been very successful with women, which has led to a lack of, and thus desire for, intimacy. Since there are other ways of gaining intimate satisfaction that are illegal here in the good old US of A, this points me in the difficult situation of wanting into basically every girl's but also being a genuinely good guy who would in turn be opposed to a good relationship. What is the dividing line here? I don't really think it is fair to even consider these two necessarily mutually exclusive. As for men being friends with women, Most guys stop showing interest when they learn that a girl is already taken because, well, for a few reasons. I think most guys see interaction with women as a potential partnership, intimate or otherwise, and as soon as that prospect is shattered, then the interaction becomes pointless. Not saying they should, but here's my example of doing the opposite. I've been friends with a girl for about a year and a half now that I really like and have been in a relationship since before I met her. When we originally started to become friends, I was just attracted to her physically and intrigued by the small pieces of her personality I saw through mutual friends. So I created conditions for us to become friends so I could learn more about her. My plan worked, and ultimately I found that I really genuinely liked her as a person. Problem being, she's still in a relationship. For me, this was a source of emotional distress, knowing that my feelings could never be requited and we would always see our relationship differently. This made the friendship more difficult for me, but not at all for her. So when I told her, it sort of led to a, you don't want to be friends with me just because I won't sleep with you sort of thing. Obviously, I did want to sleep with her, but it was about more than that. Long story short, being friends with girls when you're single can be a bad idea emotionally. Story 41. My boyfriend? After 10 minutes, I fell over nothing and went flying onto my stomach. We just met up, held me up. I laughed nervously. He then laughed. That was 8.5 years ago. He immediately made me laugh. Not once did he pry, push, or do anything to make me feel uncomfortable. We knew each other for a long time before things progressed, and it was all on my terms. Everything was consented to, and he helped me learn about myself before him and his needs. He was my first. Soppy, but I got lucky. He genuinely is a lovable, humble man. I found guys that just want intimacy will talk for 5 minutes and ask, flat out. They don't want conversation, whether deep or not. No thanks. Also, if they refuse to respect me, and that I'm not single, nor am I here to flirt or be flirted with. Story 42. It took a long time for me to learn, but it was so worth it. A good friend of mine would ask if I needed help with anything. For example, I didn't have a car at the time, so he would offer me rides to places and such. I never expected anything back in return. He also treated me like a normal human being. He asked about my interests and just generally talked like good friends. In the back of my mind, I always thought he'd try to ask for more, but he never did. And when I expressed that I was interested in someone else, he continued to treat me the same. When I would tell my other friends this, they would make jokes that he was gay or something. But when that relationship fizzled out, he continued to show me that same kindness. I wasn't mad that I ignored him for weeks, which was surprising. When we met up again, he asked how I was and such. We just picked right where we left off. He still never asked for anything more. It's when they treat you like equals when you know they're genuine. A lot of guys, in my experience, tend to put women on pedestals and treat them as though they are royalty. That's not always the way to a woman's heart. It places too much pressure on the woman to reciprocate, and if they don't, they're seen as shallow or selfish because, oh my god, he was such a great guy and treated you like a queen. Story 43. Hell if I know. Because apparently I freaking suck at telling the difference. If I'm actually not as naive as I think I am, he'll respect my boundaries about what I'm comfortable with and what he's comfortable with, what I want, what he wants, etc. He'll actively communicate with me about it, or anything. I'm more than willing to talk about anything if I'm with somebody that I'm amicable with and see going further. It's passive versus active, really. If someone respects you, they'll proactively invest in you. They won't sweep stuff under the rug, have to be told 10 times, and still forget about things that are important to you or make half-meant attempts and empty promises. They won't push for it when they know they're trampling all over your comfort level or put up a fuss and whine and pout and get mad when you talk about safe intimacy and testing. If someone cares for you, they will work with you. If the dude really cares about you, I don't think that's such a crazy concept, is it? I don't have a problem if guys want to get I have a problem if guys want to get with me and just use me for intimacy. Intimacy means more to me than that, but that's just me and what I'm comfortable with. It'd be unfair and stupid of me to think otherwise. I just know myself well enough to know that I'm not a casual intimacy type of woman. If a guy I know or am with or talking with is and wants to have intimacy with me, it's up to me to communicate to them that I'm not into casual intimacy. And hopefully, we'll peacefully go our separate ways, because I respect that about them. Ultimately, it all comes down to mutual respect. Story 44. You have really good boundaries and are honest with yourself and him about what you're looking for. Genuinely ask what he's looking for, then listen to and accept his response. Most guys just send pretty clear signals that they have no interest in committing beyond having a good time. But women don't like to hear it and convince themselves otherwise. I was very much in love with someone I was dating, only to realize that this was the case. Now I'm an outlier who actually recognized this when my needs weren't being met and accepted it when he said he really just wanted to have fun. Which, for the record, he was a genuinely good guy. He meant monogamy, just not real love or full trust, or dependability, or true partnership, or this is it kind of relationship. The hardest thing I ever did was to walk away because what I wanted to do was just keep having fun, having intimacy, being in love with him and let the discrepancy between our expectations grow until it exploded into fiery hatred. So yeah, you know when you know yourself and you can be honest with both of you. I feel like it's a cop-out to say that men are not genuinely good for wanting to have intimacy with a girl. Isn't that literally what drives our species forward? My experiences were in my early 20s when I was not super interested in serious relationships and mostly interested in casual intimacy. So I don't have a lot of experience waiting on that front to be sure a guy had pure intentions in my heart and soul before getting down. I met my now SO at 24. We met at a club and I immediately took him home because I wanted to have intimacy with him. 2 months later, I told him point blank that while what we were doing was super fun, I was looking for a serious relationship. And if that wasn't something he was interested in, then we should end it. I was prepared to let him go if he wasn't in for it for the long haul. 5 years later and 5 months pregnant. Man, I'm glad I took his bum home that night. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.